Alright, Diablo 4 players, so let's talk about it. Which mercenary is going to be the best for you? Now, I really hate sometimes when YouTubers take really long to get to the point, so I'm gonna go ahead and summarize it really quick for 90% of the players. Now, it depends on the build that you play, but in most circumstances, Subo will be the best. Thanks for tuning in. Drop a like on your way out, but jokes aside, this character is insanely powerful. However, depending on what you want to do, there could be some other characters and mercenaries that you want to actually run. If you are interested in doing high tier pit runs, I would probably recommend you guys to play Raheir. However, the reason why I really want to stress running Subo for majority of people watching any video guides is simply due to you lacking the resources towards the end of the game, because you're going to need these rawhides, these iron ore, and up on the map, Subo just starts revealing these, and he will really ease the quality of life in terms of clearing content to be much faster. But if you want extra survivability and you want the top tier push runs, most people are playing Raheir. However, there are literally rank 1 spots still playing Subo because the map reveal is just that good. So I'll go over a few of the more interesting things. So for starters, let's go over kind of what each mercenary excels at. And if you want to unlock the mercenaries, all you do is what's called the priority quests in the campaign, and you will unlock all of them. So for starters, Subo, which is the guy with the bow, he is really utilized for the map reveal. It is a huge advantage. I'll show you guys what that looks like in a second. And then Raheir, the guy with the shield, is basically for your armor, your resistances, fortification, basically your survivability. Then we have Aldkin, which is really only utilized for the vulnerability, but it is a double-edged sword as it will also make you vulnerable. Now there is also a function that he has where he can allow you to actually burn the enemy. And that's really only important on the sorceress because there is a enchant system with the sorceress, and a lot of times you had to take the fire bolt enchant because it applies burn and a lot of bonuses depending on if the enemy is burning or not. So you can get some advantage if you are playing the sorceress. And then we also have Varyana, the barbarian berserker character, and she's really utilized for your attack speed and movement speed. So that's what each of the mercenaries kind of excels at. Now, some of them, they do have some sort of overlap and have similar skills, but I want to go ahead and explain things really quick because it's very important that you understand this. So for starters, how the mercenary system works is you can actually have 2 mercenaries if you are playing solo. If you're in a group, well, then you cannot have the hired mercenary. So how it works is the higher mercenary is going to be one that can use its entire skill tree for the most part. You basically get to select on one side of the skill tree, but it's going to be able to use everything. The other one is going to be called the enlist reinforcement. The best way that I can explain the enlist is if you've played any fighting game before and you would push a button to get an assist and the character jumps out, shoots a fireball, jumps out, or does like a melee attack, jumps out. That is basically what the enlist is. It's a small thing that will have a cooldown based on the actual ability, but it is activated on whatever skill that you decide. So if I was to use Varyana, I can choose what skill she uses and I can choose how it's activated. Maybe I'm crowd controlled, then she'll jump in and do that ability, then jump out, and then it will have the cooldown. It's kind of a nicer feature to go ahead and have, and I do really think it's a cool idea. Now, keep in mind, any of these mercenaries aren't going to be going up to things and one-shotting things. These are basically just some sort of complement to your character. They don't really do damage. In the earlier stages, yeah, it can maybe kill a small monster here or there, but to activate a lot of these abilities, by the time the projectile or the thing comes out, the monster's more than likely dead if you have a good build. That's just the reality of it, and it doesn't do insane DPS either. They're just kind of utility characters here. Also, as you progress, basically the first few ranks, all the characters, I unlocked all of their skills. It's really easy to go ahead and unlock them. Basically, you just play with them. The one that you have as the enlisted one will get half the XP, but pretty much you're going to be unlocking these pale marks as you progress. But you only need to level up them to, I believe, 5, and then you're going to get all of the skills unlocked. They don't do insane damage as you level them up. They're not going to be crazy good. Again, they don't really do damage. They're just there to support. Think of the Diablo 3 mercenaries. These, unfortunately, as of right now, aren't like Diablo 2 mercenaries where they can actually deal damage, which hopefully one day we will see. But kind of how the skill tree works on the mercenary system is that you have 2 different skills, and then you have their main mercenary ability. So on the left side, one of them's shadow. On the right side, one of them's fire for Aldkin, which is the little demon child kid. So some of these will have a really long cooldown, and I wanted to highlight for you to understand which one is going to be the best for your build. And pretty much what it comes down to is a lot of them will have you can inflict vulnerability, you can inflict daze, stun. It cannot really be something that you consider in your build that you're going to have always vulnerability or you always have daze. These things that you have are like on a 10-second cooldown or 15. It varies between the skills here. And then you'll see over here where like, oh, this ability has a 30% chance of vulnerable. I mean, if I want vulnerable, I just want the thing to have 100% vulnerable. I don't want it to have, okay, on this lucky hit chance, 2% chance on like Tuesdays. This is the kind of stuff that I just don't think that belongs in this game. I don't really mean to make this a review. I just want to go over the best one, but I have to kind of explain that you can't just select a character and be like, oh, it has daze. I have daze damage in my build. All right, I'm going to max this character out and I want to rely on solely off of daze or that condition from the Mercenary. You literally can't do it. So I'm not going to consider that for how I'm going to tell you guys which Mercenary to pick. Because just because it has the ability to daze on a 5% chance on Tuesday does not make it good. So let me go over why Subo is pretty much going to be the best Mercenary. Now that we have kind of like the explanation out of the way. So the reason why Subo is so good is because of his Mercenary perk passive, where he gets to reveal all enemies and materials in the area. This is incredibly good for anyone that is trying to learn the game, but also even some players that are more advanced Diablo players, understanding kind of the density on when you can actually maybe make some big pulls for certain builds if you want to maybe push. There's also a few other things I kind of highlighted, like what he can do here. He can give you additional like movement speed, he can give you additional crit strike multi or damage over time multi, but again, these are like skills that have a long cooldown and then like, okay, it has to hit the enemy, and again, most good builds will just fly through the content anyway, so you really don't get that, with the exception of maybe on bosses. But he's really just utilized for the marking of the area. And then he also has this ability where he can mark enemies, and then also he's going to be able to restore some of your resources and reset the cooldown. See what I mean by like, these are just really long cooldowns. Like a 10-second cooldown to get 50% of your resource may not seem that bad, but again, you have to actually kill that marked enemy, otherwise it's going to be a 20-second cooldown. But most good builds, you're going to run Ringless or other Skies, you're going to be spamming any ability anyways, for the most part. But that's the main reason why we use him, and I want to show you guys this in action. So over here on the top right, you can see basically what this does. Now, this is so incredibly good. If you guys remember back in Diablo 3 days when there was a application called Turbo HUD, which you should not download, by the way, because some people were apparently getting banned from it. This is just a YouTube video that I found by Chosen here, but basically you can see it's basically the same thing. In the top right, you'll see all these little dots. It kind of shows you where to go. This is basically it, and it also marks where the materials are for the herbs, the ores. It's so incredibly godly. That's why Subo is going to be in, I would say, probably like 80 to 90% of builds because of just this alone. And this doesn't just apply where like, oh, you just want herbs. A lot of these objectives for some of the end game content, whether that's the Undercity or if you're just doing the pit, it really helps to see where are these monsters, where are the elites. It's incredibly good. And on top of that, yeah, you still get like bonus crit multi, so there's still some sort of damage sources there, right? Now, let's go over Raheir. Raheir is actually a pretty good one as well, and the reason why Raheir is good, and I kind of underline what makes him so good, he has this ability to kind of prevent you from taking a big chunk of damage with his main Mercenary perk. Again, these have such a long cooldown, 30 seconds to go ahead and prevent like 15%. It's not the worst thing, but again, the cooldown is so long that it's hard to kind of rely on this. So, what makes him really good? Well, he's able to, when he uses just his attack, his basic attack, he's going to be able to build you fortification, and that can be pretty important in certain builds to gain fortification, and in other builds, like let's say like the Rogue, you don't really have a good source of fortify, so it allows certain builds to have fortification that normally would not have fortification. And then on top of that, you can select one of these. You cannot select both these as they're kind of split on the tree here. But it's really good. It just saves you a temper or like a affix roll, giving you either 15% armor or 15 to all resistances. It's really good. So that's why you would want to consider Raheir. This could be actually good for some pushing builds as well, just because it gives you basically another affix. And there is something where he can actually taunt the enemies. So if you're looking for survivability, Raheir is definitely your go-to. And then we have Varyana. So this is the Berserker. So what does she do? She was mainly utilized for attack speed and movement speed. She also has this pretty nice thing where you get to heal, where whenever she does bleed damage to the enemy, which is just like one part of the tree, which is just going to apply the bleeds, it's like a chance, but for the most part, it'll be up relatively decent on the bosses because there's only one target. But you can basically get a lot of attack speed with the character, and what I mean by a lot is like you can get an additional up to 10 here, you can get another 5 there, and then when she uses her Bloodthirst, you can get another 10. So in total, let's say you get 25% attack speed. That's actually pretty decent. But what makes her really nice, and I would actually really recommend selecting her for the campaign, because you are able to move through the campaign a lot faster. Pretty much, without giving too many spoilers here, the campaign's got a lot of running around. If you played any action RPG, this is normal. You gotta do the campaign to kind of unlock certain things anyways, and so I would really recommend her for the campaign because you get movement speed and attack speed, which are two really great stats. But again, Subo is pretty much going to be the go-to, I think, for most people. Now, why would you want to use Aldkin? Aldkin is only really good specifically for the Mercenary perk, but there is a double-edged sword with it. So if your build does not have a good source of vulnerability in the very beginning, this could be something that you can utilize. He kind of transforms and he either does like shadow damage or fire damage. Now, with the Curse of Darkness, he's going to make you and nearby enemies vulnerable. So again, double-edged sword. However, there's also the Curse of Flames, which is going to make it so your direct damage is going to burn them for a certain amount. But there's a big downside with this as well. You lose 10% of your maximum resource per second. If you are playing a build in the earlier stages of the game where you're just using like basic attacks, because there are a few different leveling builds that are actually great for basic attacks. So you could utilize this bonus over here just specifically for that because, well, again, you don't really need to manage your resources, so it's just an extra free small amount of damage. And in the very earlier stages while leveling, sure, it's okay. But I still think that you'd probably benefit much more off Varyana because you get that movement speed and the attack speed overall. So this one is mainly, I would say, maybe utilized on Sorks just so you can apply that burn. Again, it frees up an enchantment slot, which is actually quite nice to actually have. So that's going to go basically wrap it up. These are the mercenaries, and these are kind of what they excel at. Hopefully this video and guide was helpful, but at the end of the day, there might be some sort of crazy thing. Most of the time with Diablo 4, honestly, people figure out some crazy broken thing, and if we need to update this video guide, I will update it later down the line. But I'm curious to know if you have played the game, or you plan to play, which mercenaries do you guys actually plan to utilize? For me, I'm 100% going to be utilizing Subo, just like everyone else that I've been talking to. This character is just so good as like your main one. Again, not the assist one, but if you want to have a good assist one, I think Varyana is good and Raheir is good again. For the fortification for more survivability, Raheir is definitely there. Also, another quick little rule with the assist thing that you may want to actually know about is that if you get some of the passives, if you have them on the assist, it may not work. So like with Raheir, one thing that I really like him for is the resistances or armor. If you use him for the assist, when he comes out, you do not get that bonus stat. So just keep that in mind also when you are playing. Anyways, that's going to go wrap up the video. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn the bell if you guys want to see more, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.